It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Welcome to Tuesday, right? Tuesday edition? Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. See, this is when it gets tough, folks. You got to understand. When you're starting practice on like Sundays and you're here on Sunday, it messes up your whole equilibrium. Yes. I thought yesterday was Tuesday. It was really Monday. It's a mess. Yes. But today is, in fact, Tuesday. Tomorrow is an off day for Giants practice-wise. But we had 3 straight days with 2 straight days of pads after 1 day of shells, Paul, and a lot going on at practice today. It was a fun day.
Don't feel bad. I thought today was Wednesday all day.
Yeah, no, I was confused yesterday. We're gonna have a special Giants huddle coming up. I kind of messed up that guest a little bit in terms of telling him what day we were doing it because it messed up my day. So
oh my,
we got it all squared away.
Okay.
It's fine. You'll see that in a week or two whenever we decide to put that up. Oh, Rashad Penny retired today. How about that? Who knew?
He's had some injuries.
Yeah. But
yeah, today.
Yeah, second straight day of pads.
Defense.
Well, first thing I want to talk about, Paul, is the 9-on-7. Because I thought that was one thing I thought where the offense actually won that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but for the whole day, it was a better defense.
Well, I know, but it was the first day we actually had 9-on-7. You usually only probably see 9-on-7 1 to 3 times through all of training camp. So it's significant when they do it. So I at least want to lead with that because you just don't see it a whole lot. From what I could tell, where are my notes on 9-on-7? They ran about 5 plays or so with each group. So the 1s and the 2s and the 3s all ran 5 plays. And this is, if there's 15 plays, 13 of them I think were running plays. 2 were pass plays on play action throws. One that went to Daniel Bellinger for a deep gain.
Yep.
I thought the offensive line, specifically the first and second groups, did a really nice job opening some holes. I thought the running backs did a good job cutting back to the weak side of a couple of plays. The right side of the offensive line, to me, with Runyon and Illuminor, did a really nice job. And I thought Daniel Bellinger did a pretty good job blocking on the edge as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, there was a lot of running today. Once again,
it was a run-heavy practice.
It really was. We saw a lot of runs yesterday, and I know that was because Coach wanted to get the guys acclimated to the contact. You know, you're going to have a first contact practice. You want to be able to do that. Well, he did it a lot today again. And I think what we said yesterday also kind of held true today. We saw more out of Singletary and out of Turbo Miller and out of Taylor. Tyrod Tracy.
Tyrone.
I am really my allergy meds today are really affecting me.
You had the right letter. You had the T's.
I did. 29. How about that? We just call what coaches do. They call guys by numbers. 29.
So you actually had him as Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. I did.
That's pretty good.
I did.
Follow happens to the best of us.
It's mighty. Okay. Anyway, what we said yesterday: Singletary, Tracy, Miller. Gray got more reps today than he got yesterday.
And a couple nice runs, too.
He did. And I think he might be feeling some heat, to be honest, because the other guys have all done a little bit more with their running plays than he had.
Yeah, so then you had some one-on-ones again, offensive line, defensive line. I was up close for those. You got to watch them from across the field. And I thought the defense probably did a little bit better today than they did yesterday in terms of the one-on-ones. But I thought it was mostly the second and third team guys, specifically on the inside, where the Giants' backup guards and centers had some issues blocking some of these guys, Paul, from what I could see.
Yeah.
Antonio Chapman had a couple. Ryder Anderson, me and you disagree, but he had a rep against Stinney, which he did okay on. You think he did better than I did? That's fine.
That's all right.
A couple other guys. I thought Jordan Riley had a couple really nice reps. He had one where he got under the pads. I think it was Morrissey and kind of just flung him aside at center. I thought you had some things inside that went well for the defense with the backups. But I thought the Giants' tackles did a pretty nice job. I thought Andrew Thomas was spotless. I think he was 3 for 3 on his reps.
He was terrific.
Shut people down. Like, didn't even get close to the quarterback.
Stone cold.
He was.
You know what happened? He saw our clip yesterday when he got thrown off balance, so he wanted to make sure today he was a brick wall.
Aside from that one rep I mentioned with Ryder, I thought Stinney had 3 other pretty good reps. I thought Illuminor did a good job over there at right tackle.
Yep.
I mentioned yesterday Thibodeau I thought was the best pass rusher out there. I thought he was a little bit quieter today. Those are the main guys that I have down here.
How'd you grade the Burns rush on Cajuste? Did you see the stranglehold that he put on Burns' neck? I thought he was going to decapitate
In
him.
a situation like that, where you have the backup tackle, maybe I don't know if he's technically second or third string.
I think he counts as third right now, doesn't he?
Did Burns get past him?
Well, to be honest, if he wanted to leave his head behind on the ground, he might have been able to, but his head would have been separated from his shoulders.
I didn't see a flag. Paul, you do what you have to in order to figure out a way to block Brian Burns.
Okay, it was virtually a clothesline, but okay, we'll take it. But I thought it was significant that Burns had tweaked his foot and ankle yesterday.
But he was out there.
And he was out there today.
And I did see him kind of limp a little bit after one rep in pass rush yesterday, but then I didn't see him leave practice, so I didn't want to mention it without official word from the team.
Exactly.
But he was back out there today. He looked okay.
I did think...
Little ginger.
We talked about how great Thomas did. Well, Burns got stoned by him.
Yeah, he
on
did.
The one. And I thought Azudo did a really good job on Burns on
His
another rush,
last
too.
rep against, let's see, I thought Azudu's last rep against Thibodeau was actually really good too. Out of
Yes,
left
it was.
tackle. It was the last rep of the session.
Yes, I agree.
I thought he had a really nice rep there.
Tibbs had a tough time today.
He did.
Getting in.
I agree
He
with
really
that.
did.
Mhm.
And yesterday he was the best guy.
Yeah, correct.
But not today.
Timmy Horn had a nice rush on Joshua Miles off the edge. Jalen Mayfield, I thought, had a nice rep against Boogie Basham when they kind of moved Boogie Basham inside to guard.
Mm-hmm.
He went against Jalen Mayfield. I thought Jalen Mayfield had a nice rep there. DJ Davidson overpowered Morrissey, one of the backup centers, on one of those reps. And I guess I thought John Runyon had his first loss. I thought
To Phillips.
Against Phillips.
Yeah.
That was his first loss in one-on-ones, but otherwise he was solid. So no one else really necessarily jumped at him. Jordan Riley, I mentioned, had one. But
Did you see the nacho on McKeithen?
Yes.
That one
Yes.
did not go well for McKeithen.
Yes, yeah, he kind of beat, and that was one of those fast wins we talked about
Yes.
not wanting to allow. He kind of swiped his hands right away. McKeithen lost his balance a little bit, and he got right past him.
And
Yep,
that was a quick one. That was not one you'd want to see.
I got 93 beat 60 with hands written down, absolutely. And there was one other quick win that I saw here, and I can't find who it was, but I have Nacho have an overpower on Kubats at guard, almost put him on his back. So
Did you mention DJ Davidson had that one win?
Yep, I did. I mentioned Davidson. He had he had that power rush.
Yep. Okay.
And he also beat Schlotman as well. Schlotman got his hands way too high in a play, and he beat Schlotman.
Yep.
So I thought DJ Davidson had a couple of nice rushes there too. Who's the one? That was Horn that had the power rush outside when he actually put him out the end against the tackle Miles and almost put him on his rear end. So, and I guess we can kind of translate that into the Giants announced a signing today on the offensive line.
They did.
To shore up their backup group. We had reports a couple weeks ago from Jeremy Fowler that they had brought in Greg Van Roten, a veteran over 30 years old. The guy started at guard for the Raiders with Carmen Brasillo last year, and with Evan Neal continuing to be out. I didn't see him outside today, but I'm sure he was rehabbing inside. It was pretty hot and sticky out there.
Yep.
So, a guy to just shore up that inside with Stinney moving into the starting lineup, I think he was your primary backup guard. Now with the Luminor tackle, you want to have another backup veteran guard that you can trust there, with the Zudu also being left out there at tackle, and I think it makes sense to bring a guy like Van Roten in.
Van Roten has played both left guard and right guard in the National Football League. He's been around a whole handful plus of years, has started some games, and he's just one of those veterans who you plug in and you help steady the situation. He's not going to come in and, I don't think with the Giants guys that they've got now, I don't expect him to necessarily win a job, John. I do think he is just being, looked at as a versatile plug-in guy if they need him.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It enhances the quality of your depth because, as he just said a minute ago, when you looked at the backup offensive linemen on this team right now, the interior guys in particular, if Stinney's being elevated into the starting job, which right now he is, it's thin.
Yeah.
It's thin.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Then during 9-on-7 and 1-on-1 offensive line, defensive line, Drew Phillips jumped another route for an interception.
Yeah.
I was not watching that one because I was watching O-line, D-line, but Salomon and SciTac told me about that one. And there were two long passes for touchdowns during those 1-on-ones. Daniel Jones hit Isaiah Hodgins over the shoulder for like a 30 to 40 yard catch.
Gorgeous
for a score.
throw.
And then Tommy DeVito hit John Giles Jr., I believe, the undrafted free agent. Yes.
Yeah.
For a touchdown during those one-on-ones.
Yeah, the Hodgins one was down the left sideline, and it was just a sweet one. The oohs and ahs from the crowd. They love that when they see a big one.
And then we got to the team drills, and Paul, and that's when I think the defense really did win the day. When it comes to the team drills, I'm with you on that. Bobby Okereke had a run stop. Deontay Johnson had a run stop. A bunch of guys. Burns got pressure on one. Deontay Johnson would have had a sack. Kayvon Thibodeau would have had a sack on another play. We saw them running more games. Burns too. We saw them running some more games inside in terms of like stunts and stuff like that, trying to get after the quarterback. Dexter Lawrence still coming off of his illness. He was out there, did some individual stuff. I did not see him in any team reps.
No.
Which might be one of the reasons the offensive line did well in 9-on-7 because there was no Dexter Lawrence in the middle. But a couple plays in the secondary. Nick McLeod had back-to-back pass breakups, which were nice. There was a jumping interception from Javarius Owens, kind of tipping it to himself on a nice play near the sideline.
Really sweet play. And that's 2 days in a row now he's made a big play in practice.
Yeah, Drew Phillips had another pass breakup.
Riley had a good one.
Yeah, yep, right, he did. Number 38, right?
Yeah,
not 38, I'm sorry. What number is Riley?
Elijah Riley.
He's 34, sorry. Elijah Riley. He had a nice
really
pass breakup.
Flott
too.
had one on Neighbors.
Yes, he did on the right sideline. That's right. You had a tip pass at the line by Jordan Riley, which almost turned into a Brian Burns interception.
I know.
Kayvon Thibodeau had that sack on that play too. By the way,
I agree. Adams with the forced fumble on Stoll on the near side.
I missed that one. I did not see that one.
Well, you were probably screened out by the players who were standing up too.
Yeah, probably.
It was a catch on the left sideline, right in front of the where all the players were standing, and Stoll caught it, and he wanted to cut up field, and then Adams, the linebacker, came in and ripped it out. And of course, that's a no-no.
Yeah,
You can't have that.
A couple of botched handoffs, which I was not thrilled with. There was some mishandling with snaps again, which not thrilled with.
Well, how's that happening?
Well, the snap stuff, your starting center's not there. I get it. But you don't like it, but at least I get it. But you need to clean that stuff up a little bit. Wando Robinson caught a sliding catch in the secondary. It didn't have to be a sliding catch in the secondary. It was the ball's a little underthrown, and he managed to go down there and get it. It was a nice grab. Paul, I don't know if he's waiting an extra beat or if he's just feeling not with his leg. He's not as confident yet throwing the ball with a firm base. I want to see Daniel throw these balls with reckless abandon. Just go out there and rip it. I see him in warm-ups. I see him in individual. In one-on-ones, he's just ripping the ball, and it's getting out there, and he's making good throws. I want to. Maybe it's because there's noise around his feet in the pocket and stuff like that. In these team drills, I want to see him go and rip these passes. If he throws it high or over the top, incomplete, whatever. I don't care. I really don't. I don't care if he does that. But I want to see him just go out there and let it rip a little bit.
It's very fair to say that in the team drills, he throws the ball with less zip, less velocity, if that's what you're talking about.
I feel that way, right?
I do sense that. And he certainly has it in other times.
And by the way, I don't want fans to lose their minds. This is not a big deal.
Please
it's
do
early
not.
in practice. So let's please put the caveats on here. There's no reason to panic. There's no reason to get upset. Don't freak out. This is why you have camp, right? We talked about this. Daniel Jones has not thrown to Jalen Hyatt a ton. He has not thrown to Malik Neighbors a ton. And those are two guys with elite speed. He's figuring out how to throw the ball to these guys.
No doubt.
And we've had some really, really good throws. We talked about the one to Hodgins. He had two good deep throws to Neighbors and Hyatt a couple days ago.
Yep.
This is not like a universal thing where, Daniel Jones has been terrible. That's not what we're saying.
Not at all.
But you know what I mean about the velocity, though? Just like letting it rip and firing it in there. Just put it in there. Like, no hesitation, confidence, boom, zip it in. And I think just not having played in a team environment for so long, my thought is that he's just getting used to this again.
Could be.
Coming off the surgery with all... And this is what Brian Dable said. They wanted to do 11-on-11s, right? To get Daniel reintegrated into having to deal with the messy pocket and things of that nature.
Well, we were talking to Phil Simms at lunch today because Phil was visiting practice, and one of the things he was actually talking about is how he thinks Daniel Jones has a really good arm. And it's underrated, and a lot of other people complain about it. He's like, no. He goes, Daniel Jones has a heck of an arm.
He has enough velocity to make any throw that he wants.
Right, and we know that. And we've seen him throw some pretty strong tight ropes over the course of his career. And again, he does it a lot in the other drills. But I would agree. The last couple days in particular, I didn't see the same velocity, the same zip, the same pizzazz on the ball. It wasn't like the ball was whizzing by. And I know he's got that in him. So, let's see.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. The Lions practice next week. And I think when you get another team on the field and the competitive juices start going.
That's when I really want to see it more than anything else.
And that's when I'm going to starting to make some judgments here. This is still figuring things out. You're only a week in. You're right. Once we get to the practices, live practices against the Lions, or as live as you get, I think that's going to be pretty telling.
I concur with that.
Run or Walk with Giants Legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K Racing Kids Run presented by Quest on Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt. After the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants Legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. And go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast, folks. The most recent episode that's up there, Paul Dottino's chat with Pepper Johnson. Do you want to give the folks a little tease on the Pepper interview there, Paul?
Yeah, you know what was funny about Pepper when I was talking to him about today's linebackers, and he was, John, 6'3", 250. Okay, you got defensive ends and edge rushers now,
and he was and honestly he was probably on the smaller side in the 80s at 6'3", 250.
Well, here was the funny part about it. I said, Pepper, 7 years with the Giants. He had double-digit interceptions. Only 2 of his picks were not coverage picks. He used to cover guys coming out of the backfield. He would cover running backs. He would cover tight ends. Incredible athleticism for a guy who, at the time, was supposed to be a burly inside backer who didn't necessarily have range. Pepper Johnson had range. Good stuff.
So check that out. And then we have the next 10 players on the Giants 100. Is that up yet, Pearson? Has that been posted yet?
Yes, 61 to 70.
So that's up there, too. So you find out who the 61st to 70th best players were. What was the total running time on that one, Pearson? Did you look at it? You didn't look at it? Okay, I didn't look at it. I'm curious. So check that out. Giants Huddle Podcast, Giants app, giants.com/podcast, or just search for Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platform. All right, let's get to the phone calls. 201-939-4513. I am laptopless today, folks, so bear with me. Bob Papa is using it. Though I guess he's not. He didn't bring it back in here when I asked him to.
Well,
good job, Bob.
You need help?
I got it on my phone.
All
it's fine. I got the Google Doc up here, but I told Bob if he's done with the computer, bring it back in here. And now he's probably just eating lunch in there with Banks, and he didn't bring my laptop back. Nah, it's fine, Pierce. I'll go off the phone. I want to give him a hard time for the rest of the show now, and that's fine.
As long as he's not using your laptop as a placemat.
Or for anything else that we don't want to use my laptop for. All right, let's go back to the phones. 201, or go to the phones. 201-939-4513 and say what's up. Where are the calls? There we go. Hey, Wilson and Roxbury. Wilson, what's going on?
Hey, buddy, my 2 buddies. How's the summer going?
We're good, man. How's your summer, Wilson? Good to hear from you.
Thanks. Hey, listen. So, the NFL has 32 teams, right? And the Giants, I think, are by themselves because they are probably the team with the most ifs out of all the teams, guys. Like I would put the NFL into 4 categories of 8 teams. Like you got the first 8 teams that they invested so much. If they don't make it at least to the NFC to the championship game or the Super Bowl, their season is a complete failure because they have invested so much and their window is closed.
I think that's fair. I'm with you on that.
Yep. Right, and then you got the next 8. That if everything falls into place, they might make it. But inside their building, they know they're a couple of pieces away.
Okay, that's fair.
And then you got the next 8. They're just glad to be invited into the big boys table. You know what I mean? They just as long as they're mentioned into the big boy table.
Well, I would say Wilson. I would say that next 8 are teams that they think if things go well for them, they have a chance to make the playoffs. Right, exactly.
And then you got the last 7, which there's no hope, and they're already looking into next year's prospects. And then over themselves are the Giants, because the Giants have pieces let's say Daniel Jones somehow clicks for him, right? I mean, this guy is 6'5", 230, and to me, he's got a top 10 on. So if let's say the offensive line is competitive. And things click for him, I think he can actually be a top 10 quarterback. Let's say if Malik Neighbors is 75% or whatever people think that he could be, and let's say Jalen Hyatt can become a version of Deshaun Jackson, and you have 2 top 10 defensive players on the roster, and I think you have a top 10 linebacker duo. So there is pieces there, But if like if things work out, if things mash together.
No, Wilson. Look, Wilson. We've talked about this, and I think even putting the tiers aside, just in terms of where the Giants are, they're counting on an inordinate number of young players this year to play well that we think have the talent to, but we haven't seen them do it yet. So so I think you're right about that, right? Can Daniel come off the knee injury? He kind of did it 2 years ago, but can he? I think we would all want with the people around him to be better as a passer this year than he was even 2 years ago. Can Hyde and Wandell step up? Can Malik as a rookie really impact things? Can Thibodeau take another step? Can Banks be better in year 2? How about Newbin, the rookie safety? Andrew Phillips.
Right.
Right now Andrew Phillips I think is going to be the starting slot. These are all guys that have never done it, but we think that they can.
Look, Wilson, I love the boxing analogies that I always use. The Giants believe that they're a middleweight team. That's what they think they are. They think they're a middleweight team. The development and the production of those young players will determine if they can jump up to maybe light heavyweight or if they wind up being a welterweight. Really,
right.
the varying degree of how those young players perform is going to determine it.
Right. So like to me, they can. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 11 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lose 11 games. You know what? Like, to sum it up, guys, like the Giants are the only team that when you go and you watch them, you have to bring a six-pack to celebrate, and you have to bring a bottle of Pepto-Bismol because it's going to make you throw up.
Oh, jeez.
Well said, Wilson.
Wow.
That is quite the picture. I like it.
Oh, my.
But you know what I mean? It's like no middle ground. It's no middle ground. Which is actually, it's very exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. So,
well, Wilson, to be fair,
and appreciate the call, Wilson. Good stuff.
Thank
man. You. Good to hear from you.
And to be fair, John,
He's funny.
I talk about the quicksand of mediocrity all the time, and I actually think that there are a lot of teams in the National Football League today who will say if the ball bounces 2 or 3 ways, the right way or the wrong way, we're going to wind up with as many as 9 wins or 6 wins.
There's a million.
That's the way it works.
I was going to say between 7 and 10, just because whatever.
Okay, 6 and 9, 7 and 10.
Right.
It's the same.
And I think Wilson put the league into quarters. I think half the teams in the league are in that, or maybe more, maybe 60% of the teams in the league are in that 7 to 10 win category. I'm with you on that. I agree.
I've always broken the league up into 3 parts. The absolute top-notch contenders for real, then this big, huge middle section, which can go between 3-win variants either way.
Yeah, somewhere from like 13 to 10.
And then your bottom feeders, which, you know what, even if things go pretty well, maybe they win 5 games. They're just not very good.
But there aren't as many of those teams as there
I was going to say, there's not 7 teams that are thinking about next year already.
The middle group is by far the biggest group.
Yeah, I'd say the middle group's probably got 22, 23 teams in it.
And I say that every year because that's what it's become. That's what this league wanted.
Like, every year, Paul, you could pick out 1 or 2 teams, I think, that are going to be bad, right? And this year, sorry, Pearson, I don't think the Patriots are going to be very good. I just think they're kind of rebuilding a little bit. Yeah. They don't have a really good offensive line. We'll see about the rookie quarterback. They got a lot of rookies. Right? The Panthers did add a lot of people. I think the Panthers, they already have decent defense, and they added a bunch of offensive linemen. I think the Panthers I think they could win 7-8 games this year. If everything goes well.
I don't know that I put them in the middle part. I still think they're in the bottom.
I think that's fair, but I think they have upside, though, because of the guys on their roster. So, anyway, but you're right. The general point to Wilson's point is that I don't think it's a flat 8-8-8-8, but I do think, to your point, there's 3 groups. You have the teams that really don't have much of a hope to make the playoffs, and that's probably only 3 or 4 teams in any given year now.
Because the Cardinals and Bears probably think they can make the playoffs.
Oh no, the Cardinals and Bears can make the playoffs.
No, they're in the middle.
No, they're in the middle, absolutely.
They're in the middle.
I'm just thinking of the top draft picks. That's
yeah,
all I'm
I think Washington would be really hard pressed to figure out a way into the postseason.
I think they're in that 3rd tier.
They'd be really hard pressed, and frankly, I think most of the national media has the Giants in that tier. To be quite honest with you,
I think the national media does.
Yeah, and they'll have to prove everyone wrong otherwise.
Absolutely. I agree with that,
They have to prove that they're a middleweight. Because I think everyone thinks that they're a flyweight or a welterweight.
Yeah. Well, again, the way the league is constructed, they want as many people in that middle tier as they can possibly get. That's the way the business of the league is.
Oh, that's how the league's designed.
They talk about they talk about parity. I call it the quicksand of mediocrity, but the league calls it parity. Which, by design, this is what they want.
Which teams would you put in that top category right now? I don't want to waste too much time on this. You got calls, but I'm just curious.
Real quick.
Yeah, 49ers.
You got
Chiefs.
Absolutely.
Ravens.
Buffalo.
You put Buffalo in there? Okay.
I put Cincinnati up there, too. As long as Burrow is Burrow.
Fair enough. Would you put the Lions in that group?
Probably,
right?
I don't know. I don't know if they're in that group or they're at the top of the group 2. I'm not sure.
Would you put the Eagles or Cowboys in that group?
I think they're high in group 2, but I don't think they're in group 1 for me.
I would put the Lions ahead of them.
I would, too.
I would put those would be the next 2 NFC teams for me, along with
fair.
Green Bay. Those would be my next 3. And Green Bay might even be ahead of Dallas and Philly at this point, to be honest with you. They played pretty well in the last year. But those would be my next group. And then I think the Rams are probably next.
Texans at the top of that group, too, maybe.
I think the Texans, Pearson, honestly, I think they might have a little bit of a disappointing year. And I think C.J. Stroud's fantastic. But remember, they finished the regular season, what, 10 wins last year? 10 wins the Texans last year?
Was it 10 or 9?
That was...
I don't remember.
Whichever one it was. They played an extremely easy schedule.
They did.
They had... The AFC South was down, and they played the NFC South. So they played a pretty easy schedule. I think their offense is going to be awesome. I think their offensive line, though, isn't as good as people think. And against better teams, it might get challenged a little bit. Their defense needs to show me that they're willing, that they're ready to take that next step. Which they might be. They got a lot of young players. If they progress, they could. Anyway, I don't want to make this a Texans.
No, we don't.
Here. But 201
we played them, by the way.
4513.
Second game of the preseason.
Yeah, we do. That's correct. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. Hugo, what's up?
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hi, buddy.
Hey, John, I wanted to compliment you for the interviews you did with all the position groups. I think my big picture takeaway is that, it's a young team, as you alluded to, but there certainly is some level of maturity amongst the players and a focus on improving. Now, I will note some players showed a little bit more self-awareness than others about what they needed to work on. I'd be interested to see how much that correlates with the improvement, because I think that is important to be able to self-evaluate and take constructive criticism when you're a young player. But
absolutely. And by the way, Hugo, I will say this. I think the type of guys and attitude that Brian Dable and Joe Shane have brought in here have been A+. Like, you talk to Tyler Newbern, Andrew Phillips, all the guys they've drafted, and that wasn't always the case before. Like, you sat down and you talked to DeAndre Baker for 7-8 minutes. You're like, oh boy. But like, you don't get that with the guys that this group has brought in.
In short, at times here, there's been more emphasis on the athletic prowess than necessarily the whole package.
That's correct.
And I think that's probably the easiest way to say it.
That's a good point.
Now there is an emphasis on the whole package.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that is a positive factor going into this year. I just want to maybe you can clarify something for me. I want to talk. Obviously, the Giants have had issues stopping the run over the past 2 seasons.
Yes.
And one of the things Brian Dable noted prior to the hiring of Shane Bowen was the high ranking versus the run of the Bowen system. Now, I'm more in the camp that stopping the run is more correlated to the type of players you have and desire, physicality, that sort of thing, as opposed to scheme. And I do believe that Wink Martindale had a pretty good run defense ranking in his stay at Baltimore before he joined the Giants.
He did, I believe, yes.
Yeah, so I really want to get your perspective on what you're hearing about this scheme and how it helps to defend the run. And the reason why I'm highlighting it is, one way to certainly neutralize our big off-season addition, Brian Burns, is, to control down and distance. The other one, if you're playing constantly from behind, you can't unleash the pass rush as much as you would like to.
Yep.
So that's why this is top of mind. And, when I think about, let's say, Martindale's system, right, and I'm not an expert on these matters, but it would seem to me that if you bring in people up to the line of scrimmage and filling gaps in a blitzing-type defense, that would put you in a better position to stop the run. And I think I heard somebody say that under this defense, it's sort of upfield, take one gap and rush upfield. And there was more two-gapping done in a wing system. I think I heard that from someone in some of the interviews. So all that would suggest that actually, as a scheme matter, this scheme would be worse against the run as opposed to being better. But
no, Hugo, I totally understand what you're saying, and what you're saying does make sense. Two things I'll say. One, I do think there is a coaching emphasis on making sure the players know that's important. Now, I think Wink did stress that, to be honest with you, what it didn't get through. I also think sometimes Wink did things that were unsound in terms of setting up his formations in the line of scrimmage and blitz packages, which sometimes could open up some big gaps here or there if guys didn't fill the right areas. So if you run a really big unbalanced line, right, and the other team has the right play called, guess what? You can get burned with stuff like that. And I just think, Bowen and the way he sets his defense, the word I've heard used to describe it is very sound. It's one of the reasons their red zone defense has been so good. And I think it's the reason their run defense is so good. It's very sound. It's very fundamentally based in terms of having guys in the right spots and understanding their gap responsibilities on every play. While Wink would do some things maybe that was a little bit more unorthodox, moving guys around pre-snap, giving guys up, bringing them back, guys standing up the line of scrimmage. And I think maybe some of that unorthodox stuff allowed the offenses to take advantage of maybe some slightly unsound things that the defense was trying to do to be creative.
Wink was much more thinking about the risk-reward factor. So in other words, he would say, fine, they're going to run the ball some. They're going to run it between the 30s. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Well, okay, because the more plays that they use to get down the field, sooner or later my blitz is going to get them. That was more Wink's leaning towards. And because he felt his guys were going to, at some point, make a big play. So if you guys want to keep running the ball down the field, all right, at some point, you're going to have to throw it, and my all-out pressure is going to break your pipes.
Which helps.
That's what Wink thought.
Which, by the way, works a lot better if you're playing with leads. Doesn't work nearly as well if you're. And Hugo made this point if you're playing from behind.
Game flow is huge in those conditions.
Yeah. And by the way, one thing, and I'm going to have Warren Sharp on at some point. We haven't set up a date yet. And one thing we're going to talk about is like for the last 2 years, the Giants have been the worst early scoring team in football.
Horrific.
They play from deficits in nearly every single game, and it really puts them in tough spots.
And the amount of time in each game, not just falling behind early, but then they continue to be behind, and it just snowballs.
Yeah, correct.
It's horrible.
It's very hard.
Okay, so I think in summary, we should look for better gap soundness this year when we're playing the run. So we'll look for that.
Yeah, and hopefully better tackling too. Like I think there were too many missed tackles at times last year as well.
That was definitely a problem last year. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Hugo. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Dave in Michigan. Let's go to Dave. He's up next. Dave, what's going on?
Hey guys, thanks a lot, and thanks for everything you've done this summer. Some days I actually listen to the podcast twice. How about that?
Why would you do that?
You got a lot of free time, Dave.
We love that, Dave.
Yes, the more downloads, the more better.
I'm
Don't get me wrong.
No, so I happen to be on vacation this week. I'm in northern Michigan, but when I'm working, I work at home. I'm a writer.
Okay.
I'm a long-time business journalist, and so I have a home office. So I have the Fan, and I have podcast. I have your podcast, all the Giants podcasts on, kind of running in the background. And sometimes I get caught up in my work, and I don't hear it all. So when I'm in the car later, I put it on again. I just wanted to say a quick shout out to Wilson because I used to live literally like a mile down the road from him because. And I know this because he's...
And that's why you moved away.
I know that he's from Roxbury, but I used to live... He's probably still listening. My first house was in a little town right next to Roxbury called Mine Hill in New Jersey. So anyway. Hey, I wanted to talk about the O-line and the team, because I haven't called in quite some time.
Yeah.
The O-line, to me, is absolutely upgraded from last year, but still feels very much like a wild card. And this pickup of Van Roten today, I'm like, yeah, I've heard of this guy. And then I look up his line. He's been with a bunch of different teams. But it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you guys mentioned this, but if and I always have trouble pronouncing this guy's name, the right tackle.
Illuminor.
Yeah, Jermaine Illuminor.
Right.
And by the way,
Okay.
Joe Burrow looks like Dustin Rhodes, the professional wrestler. Look at him now.
A little old school Eminem too.
Yeah, he's got the crew cut with the blonde hair. Oh my goodness,
platinum blonde.
I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm just blown away by this look. Joe Burrow, my goodness.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
So it feels like the writing's on the wall that Neal is going to take more time. And I hate to say this, but I'm starting to feel like Evan Neal is the Jacoby Ellsbury of the Giants. But
that's a rough name, Dave. That's a rough name, bro.
Well, Ellsbury was a free agent too,
and he also at least he was making a lot of money. Yeah.
But here's the thing: it's like it makes total sense because Illuminor and Van Roten played every game together last year,
right.
and were they actually lined up next to each other? Because even though this guy is 34, he played every game for the Raiders last year. So,
no, I love the Van Roten signing, Dave. I think it gives you another backup. If you can't get him back on the field, I think it gives you another backup at that guard position. I love it.
But I think if Illuminor is the starting right tackle on opening day, it makes a lot of sense to put Runyon in the left guard position and Van Roten in the right guard to keep the right side. These guys played every game last year together. So that's a cohesion of a different kind.
Yeah, but Dave, if they're satisfied with Stinney working at left guard and Runyon at right guard, and Van Roten is just the swing backup, which is what I think they're signing him for.
Well, yeah,
initially.
because if they liked Van Roten better than Stinney, they would have signed Van
come in
Roten
first
2 months ago. Right, exactly. Correct.
So I think you're going to stick with what you got, and if it necessitates another switch or swap out, well, then we can talk. Because today Brian Dable was asked about that, and he said, he could play either side. And he's an interior lineman. And we've kind of discussed it a bit, but he didn't even meet Van Roten. By the time we went out to practice today,
he didn't talk to him yet?
He said he was here, he had signed, and Van Roten was going to come out and watch practice.
Yeah, he was out there.
Did you see him?
I
didn't even see him. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I have to believe that the driving force behind signing him was the new offensive line coach.
Brasillo, sure.
Yeah, of course.
Makes sense.
Hey, quick, I just want to quick. And one question you guys can answer off the air if you want, but the first thing I'll say, I'm on vacation. I've been reading Once a Giant, and I'm loving it, but I'm also a little melancholy about it. You guys, if you've read it, probably know why. Which is that the stories that the author got, from these guys on the '86 team are amazing. The stories are just amazing. But so many of these guys that we rooted so hard for and love so much, their health problems today are really heartbreaking. And financial problems and all the rest of it. It's not only a fascinating read and enjoyable read, but like a sobering read about what these guys put themselves through for our entertainment.
That's the Gary Myers book you're talking about, right, Dave?
Yeah.
It was a good book. It was well done. It's a very interesting book.
Amazing.
Understood.
So
hey, it's a rough game. No one's ignoring that. It's a very rough game.
Yeah. You guys can answer this off the air. I'm curious about Adoree Jackson, who's still a free agent. Maybe you guys know, other than money, if there was a reason the Giants weren't interested in him. But I feel like he was probably asking for a lot of money. He kind of overshot his market price. But now that he's still a free agent, it feels kind of like he could be had for like a 2-year contract at $5 million a piece, maybe with an incentive bonus, which doesn't seem like a lot, and you get an experienced guy from the secondary back in the group.
You think he'll sign for that? You really do, Dave? You think he's going to sign for that?
Well, if you look at what he had a 3-year contract that include the one that he came off of with the Giants, which, if you keep money, was a 3-year. So I think it was like per year plus the big signing bonus. But now that he's still a free agent, if he forgoes the big signing bonus and nobody's picked him up to maybe 6, doesn't seem like a big drop-off to me.
Yeah, Dave, honestly, I'm not sure, and appreciate the call. Your phone started cutting a little bit there. I'm not sure how thrilled they were with how he played last year either. That's one. He did not have his best year. Now, a lot of that was because he played inside for a lot of the year instead of outside, but nevertheless.
And he got dinged up a little bit.
Correct. He's older, signing 30-year-old cornerbacks, or I don't know how, it's 29, whatever he is.
He's
but
close.
Signing older
If he's not
cornerbacks
there, he's close.
is always risky. And it's also a new defensive coordinator. Maybe Shane Bowen doesn't think he fits what he's trying to do, but Wink did. I don't know the answer to those last 2 questions, but I'm not sure it's solely financial, the reason he's not there.
Maybe they simply just want to get younger, too. Yeah. I mean, as we always say, sometimes you got to play the young guys to find out what you have, and you have to develop them. I mean, that's just the way it is.
201-939-4513. Donnie in Queens is up next. Donnie.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon.
What's up?
Long before I was Donnie in Queens, I was Donnie from Rockville Center, which is where Greg Van Roten is from. And fun fact, he's actually one of my brother's best friends, believe it or not.
Really?
Growing up.
All right, man. Give us the Greg Van Roten scouting report, Donnie in Rockville Center.
Well, I'll just say this: he's a great person. He went to Chaminade High School here on Long Island. And I don't think he's coming in here to be a backup like you guys may have suggested. I think he's coming in here to start. And I think at some point the Giants are going to have to shift and start having Evans focus on being a swing player, a backup guard and a backup tackle. I don't think they're looking to move Jermaine anymore. I think this is why he was signed. He was signed as, basically the insurance policy at right tackle. And obviously Evans is not progressing physically.
He just can't get healthy for whatever reason, man. It's tough.
Right, and then on top of that, when he's played, to be fair, it hasn't been good.
Yep,
so
that's fair too.
At that point, what are you holding on to, right? You're other than the draft status, right? If he was a 4th-round pick, would we even be having this discussion? Probably not.
No, but in fairness, you shouldn't, because the amount of talent a guy has, you picking the 6th overall pick compared to the 4th round is different. Right. But look, to your point, Donnie, and then you can continue. We're getting to the point here where Evan can't get back on the field. It's going to be hard to figure a spot for him. If everyone else gets in their spots and you're happy with what you have, as much as you like Evan, you think he can do it, it's going to be tough that late in the process to make a move, potentially disrupt some chemistry you've built, especially if you think the group you have in there is playing well.
It's the old Wally Pipp syndrome, right? Where if you yield your spot in the lineup and the other guy comes in, of course, it's not Lou Gehrig in this case, but you get the sense of what I'm trying to talk about. The guy does the job and they get the ball rolling. Why would you change back?
And if it's not, maybe it's not fair to Evan. He's hurt. It's not his fault. But eventually, you have to do what's best for the team if you think their current group is doing well.
The old adage about you can't lose a job due to injury, that doesn't apply anymore. Not in today's game. It can't. You can't have patience for an injured guy, and because there's so much win now. While you get the chance and you got things going, you got to keep them going. You can't switch gears, John. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Not in today's game. You don't have the time to do that. There's no patience.
I actually think this might be good for Evan's career. I think him cross-training at 2 positions, taking a step back.
Right now he can't train at any position. He's hurt. No, I'm not trying to be funny.
You're right.
I'm not trying to be funny.
I know you know.
The dude has been hurt for almost all of his 3 years here. He's had very few weeks in a row even when he was playing where he was fully healthy.
The first half of his rookie year and then the first few games last year. That was pretty much it.
And his off seasons have been ruined by injury too. Right. So I mean, first things first. Let Brasillo have a chance to work with the guy. But having said that, if the line's playing well, John, you can't You can't do anything about
And
it.
Donnie, the killer thing is, Paul, you're 100% right. I mean, the guy never missed a game in college. Guy played every game.
There was no evidence.
It's weird.
There
what
was
can you do?
no matter what some people might say, even though he seemed to be universally, we were at the Combine, John, he was universally a top 10 pick. There was no question about that.
Top 5 pick. Paul, we didn't think he'd get to the Giants at 6.
Okay, so universally, football people believed he had the ability. So what was on tape, and there was no evidence of him being banged up. So how could you blame the Giants for taking him? Anyway.
Yeah, look, I don't think I've ever been more wrong on a draft pick than him. I was absolutely convinced that at worst they were getting like a solid NFL player. So, I think this actually, let him get healthy, like you said, and then cross-train him at 2 positions. Injuries will occur at some point, unfortunately. He'll get his shot, and, maybe it's a good thing for his career to maybe take a step back and get back into this slowly. So we'll see how it plays out. Thanks for taking my call.
Appreciate the call, man.
Look at it this way, John. I was really high on Ike Ekwonu, and he hasn't had injuries to impede his progress, and it hasn't really worked out so well.
Well, the thing about Ekwonu, right? Like, his strength coming out was in the run game, and we knew he was going to struggle in pass protection early.
We did.
And he hasn't figured that out yet.
And just overall, he hasn't really figured it out yet.
He hasn't. Giants fans, take your fam to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. And don't forget, folks, the Giants' official connected TV streaming app is Giants TV. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Pearson, what I got out of that call from Donnie there was that we don't put in, actually it was Dave in Michigan. I guess we don't put up enough podcasts if he's listening to some twice. I think that means we need to do more.
That's not what he meant at all.
No. Oh, no.
He just said he gets a little distracted during the show. Okay. I do too.
John's just trying to get that production line moving a little bit. That's all.
Gosh, I'm just giving Pearson a hard time.
I know you are.
It's funny, that draft class, when you look at it, Paul, and I think we had it up the other day.
We did.
We could bring it up, like, aside from Sauce Gardner, who I think we both thought was a kind of a can't miss corner.
Yeah, for sure.
Loved. And then you had Aiden Hutchinson, who I think I was never sure about Aiden Hutchinson's, upside in terms of being like a 14 to 15 sack guy. I was throwing him more as like an 8 to 12 sack guy,
well,
but and we'll see where he gets. Right now, he hasn't gotten to 15 sacks yet, but I think he's been better than I thought he was early on. It hasn't been this like early top of the draft, a bunch of guys that have turned into stars.
No, it hasn't. I mean, remember what we said about Trayvon Walker? Mm-hmm. Now, if you recall, I was vicious on the Jaguars. I'm like, there's no way in the world you could pick this guy first, and everybody said they were going to do it. Look,
he's been a solid player. He's been fine.
Right. He's been good, but not worth the first pick in the draft. And the truth of the matter is, though, as we went through it, there are not too many, quote, superstars here yet. But this is year 3.
Yes.
This is year 3, the breakout year. So let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. We can squeeze in one more call, guys. If you want to give us a quick call, 201-939-4513. Anything else on your mind here, Paul? We just had a couple quarterback signings going on around the NFL. We had Jordan Love get paid, and then Tua got paid.
Well, actually, I was going to look forward to the fact that we're off tomorrow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right?
What do you got?
The rest of the schedule, we are off tomorrow. Guys come back then later on in the week. But really, my next benchmark or milepost is, of course, the Lions coming here on Monday and Tuesday.
Tuesday next week.
The rest of the week to me is kind of, I don't want to say it's a ramp down, because for the players it's a ramp up, but it's to get to that next step of the ladder, which is the Detroit Lions on Monday and Tuesday. That's what it's all about for me right now. I can't wait to get to that as opposed to the rest of the week.
Yeah, the Giants are kind of going in like 3-day stints here in terms of getting practice in, so I believe they are off Saturday again, right? Then they go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think seeing what they do against the Lions, and we talked about this yesterday a little bit, is going to be telling. And I'm curious to see how much they actually play their guys in that first preseason game.
I know.
Based on what happens in that joint practice thing for 2 days.
No doubt, because I'm now of the opinion that we might actually see Daniel Jones play some preseason snaps. I'm starting to think we might. I didn't think so originally. And now I'm starting to think we could.
I feel pretty good about that too. I think we will also.
And it might only be in a series, maybe even one series in each of the 3 games, or maybe a quarter in one of the games. I'm not sure, but I'm starting to believe he is going to get some snaps. And I did not think that as little as 2 weeks ago. I didn't think so. I thought we would just see him in the dual practices with the Lions and the Jets. But, I think he needs to work. I mean, we know he needs to get back into live situations, and putting him in a fully live game situation for the first time since his injury against Minnesota may not be a great idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be Detroit. I don't know I think maybe Houston's the sweet spot for that.
Okay. I'm not going to object.
Just because you don't have any joint practices that week, so you want to give him some
Okay.
in that week you want to give him some live reps.
I would not
the
object to
following
that.
week you have that one competitive practice against the Jets before the Jets game, and you'll get at least work against another opponent in practice that week. So maybe week 2, since you're not doing anything against the Texans, you want to see him in a game.
I could see it. In fact, you know what? I know the Giants had the Jets up here a couple of years back for just one day.
Yeah, that was 2
I'm a
years
little
ago.
curious. No one's asked Stable that I know of why the team is only doing 1 day with the Jets as opposed to 2 when dual practices are usually 2 days. No one's addressed that.
My guess is that that's a Jets thing.
Could
'Cause
be.
It happened 2 years ago with the Jets. With
And they only
Saleh.
brought him here once
Yeah,
for
and
1 day.
And I vaguely remember when the Jets traveled to practice against somebody else, something happened where
called
they
it
only
off.
ended up
They
practicing
called it
1
off.
day also,
Yes,
right?
they did. I forget which team it was.
49ers?
I don't remember what team
No,
it was.
I think it was. Bisala with the 49ers connection.
It was.
I think it was
And
the
they called off the
49ers.
second day.
They did.
Yeah.
And they claimed it was because of weather, but then
Right.
it ended up being out, and then they still didn't do it.
Exactly. Whatever.
Yeah, because I think that's when the Jets had Hard Knocks 2 years ago, right?
They did.
And that was the year that they...
Was
missed
it last year? I don't even
thought
remember
it was 2
now.
years ago. I could be wrong now.
Anyway.
I am looking... By the way, the final Hard Knocks episode is coming your way tonight. What are the things you're looking forward to, Paul, in that episode?
Honestly, John, I mean, we're going to see the draft stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to see.
And make all the picks.
I have disclosure. I have not seen it. I think you probably have, right?
No, I have not
You didn't
seen
get an advance yet?
I have not seen anything.
I know some people have seen an advance copy. I have not seen it. But look, I've never been in the war room during the draft. I probably never will be.
No, God willing.
So, yeah, right. So, for me, just getting any video from the war room is kind of cool for me.
No, me too.
That's all.
And I like to see the conversations that happen. Look, I think this isn't a regime where you're deciding who to pick on draft day. I think they pretty much know what they're doing, and they make the decision when it comes. So I don't think you'll see debate. But I think when teams call to trade, do you consider trading up to target a certain guy? Do you consider trading down to get out of a pick? What offers come in? What are you thinking about? And that kind of gives you an idea of what they think of certain players, too, in terms of how you want to navigate up and down the draft board.
Well, I think we did see during the coming attractions, there was a call between the Jets, right?
Yeah, that the Jets were trying to
So
move up.
that could be pretty cool to listen to.
Yes, and my guess is that the Jets were trying to trade up for a playmaker, and the Giants were not going to move out of that pick.
Right.
Because A, they love neighbors, and B, especially if the Jets are moving up for a playmaker, then all of a sudden one of those guys might not get to you at pick number 9.
True.
So
Okay.
I real quick, we have 1 minute to go, and we start about 5 minutes late, but not important. I did the debate with SciTac, and I asked you this off the air.
Okay.
If you were the Giants, considering that trade with the Bears to go down to 9, right? In a vacuum, would you have traded away from Roma Dunze for Brock Bowers and a 3rd and a 4th round pick?
I would not have done that. I thought that much about Odunze. And quite frankly, as we said during the combine, those 3 receivers were can't-miss guys. I had some reservations about Bowers. I did not want to pass on one of those 3 impact receivers, and I would certainly not have done it for a 3rd and a 4th.
And you know me, I love Bowers. I think he's great. And I think if it was Bowers and a relatively high 2nd round pick, I would have done it. Like if
Okay.
you're getting the 7th or 8th pick in the 2nd round where I think I can still get a really good wide receiver, I think I'd probably do it.
And the draft was deep in receiver.
Correct.
So we knew that.
But for a 3 and a 4, I'm not getting that second bite of the apple to try to get a... Look, you might get a good player around 3 or 4. Your chance of getting a premium guy, it's much smaller. It's harder to find the guys in those rounds. So for 3 and a 4, and I was on the fence when I talked to SciTac about it, I like Bowers probably a little bit more than you did.
I know you did.
And I think he's going to be a great pro. But I don't think I would have done it for a 3 and a 4. If I was getting a 2, and I know if you look at the chart, the 3 plus 4 equals a 2.
I know.
I don't care. I would have needed a 2. And the Bears didn't have a 2 to trade, so that's why it never would have worked
The
out.
problem for me, John, aside from whatever film and tape that we got to see, is that it was just so universal. So universal at the combine. These 3 receivers are elite.
And Adunze was such a safe pick. He was the
Without a
safest
doubt.
of safe picks.
So I couldn't have done that.
Fair enough. Paul,
All
good
right,
stuff.
You got it.
Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Tomorrow, SciTac, and I'm guessing you?
I believe so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then I know it's you and Cross on Friday because I looked that up, and then who knows who's on Thursday. We'll figure that out. Probably me and SciTac is my bet. Thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. I got the sponsor right, Pearson. Stop shaking your head over there. We'll see you next time, everybody.